August 1st. So we're doing my second quarter wrap up, which is like basically from March till the end of June. I just wanted to make sure I had my phone available for Goodreads. You guys want to know something funny? For Christmas, for Aaron's stocking, I accidentally bought him 2.5 pounds of Reese's pieces Reese's cups, because they make these like huge ones, and I didn't even notice it when I picked it up for a stocking, and we've had them in the cabinet since Christmas, but being like, that's too much. But for the past 2 days, I've been thinking about them nonstop. I ate like a big chunk of one, but it was so much, I cannot even imagine eating a whole one of these. Isn't that crazy that they make that? That they made that? And then there's a whole other cup in the thing. It's 2 like 1.25 pound Reese's. And also, how did I not notice that when I picked this up and was like, man, that's heavy. I just thought it was like packed stuff full of them. I hope he doesn't mind that. He wouldn't mind that I ate it, but you know. So looking at my stats, there's a little bit of weirdness in March as a whole, because I finished a bunch of books like right at the start of March, or was reading books over a period of time in March. So I think for me, the note I have made is that I read 24 books in that 3-month period, which is like pretty crazy to me. And I just wanted to double check. I've read 28 books in March, and a good mix of books, so my stats might be a little bit off of this. But in that 28, I read 5 audiobooks, and I think I even wrote them down. So the audiobooks I read were I wrote down some other notes. Maybe we'll go back. So I had 62% of like 4 and 5 stars. Some standouts to me were The Good Neighbors, Gone Girl, Kakai, These Fleeting Shadows, Mother Daughter Murder Night, Babel, Last Night at the Telegraph Club, which I can't really tell like if I finished it in March, like the last couple days of March or the first couple days of April, based off this, because like the only way to get it to count to your Goodreads challenge is to add dates to it, and sometimes I don't do that right away, and it only matters for like that week because I filmed these wrap-up videos, so, you know. Episode 13, Emily Wilde and Veronica Speedwell, and then The Entangled Life. So, and also Patricia Runs the Cuddle. So that's a good list of books. I really liked most of the books I read in March. In fact, I don't have very many low ratings for this year. Just in general, the book I was going to talk about as being like the biggest disappointment was Rainbow Black, which was a book I had heard briefly mentioned, and it seemed really interesting. It's a book that it follows this woman, or this girl, as something is going on with her parents that is kind of weird, and she doesn't really know, and her parents are kind of hippies. She's in New Hampshire in like the 70s, and then all of a sudden her parents get taken, kind of to parallel that like Satanic Panic preschool like case where all these kids had these recovered memories, and so they had all these like ritualistic abuse things happening, and it turned out not to be true, but everybody got really invested in it, and that's when we kind of had like this recovered memory stuff. And so that's kind of the start of the book, and then the trial is really traumatic, and then her sister dies, and then the young girl is like very upset. She has to go to a children's school. They have a retrial. That's really upset. She runs away. She lives in Quebec with her long-term partner, who was somebody from when she was a kid, realized they were trans. The first half of the book, like the first half of it, I was like pretty invested in what was happening in the trial, and it was like heavy and upsetting, but it was still really interesting. And then the second half of the book, I just wasn't feeling it. And then my husband, when I was explaining the plot to him, he was like, this kind of sounds like trauma porn, which I feel like is, you know, you want to write books about heavy things, and you can write books that are heavy without it being trauma porn. I do feel like this book kind of crossed over a little bit. I just ended up not really enjoying it, and I thought I would really like it, especially because the first half of the book I was really, really loving it, and it was such a dramatic shift is kind of odd for me. I feel like usually books that are 3 stars are 3 stars all the way through for me, or they're, you know, I know they're going to be high, and then they say, but you gotta come through in the end. So that's like the only one that really sticks out to me. I'm gonna do another. See, this is why I wrote 2.5 stars on it up because I rated it 3 stars in Goodreads. I hated that book. Hated is a strong word because I didn't rate it a 1, right? Like, I listened to the whole thing, and I probably would have given it like a 3 and forgotten about it, but I thought the twist was so terrible. Only made more terrible to me by the fact that everybody loves that fucking book, and I just like don't get it because I think the twist is bad, which I think is why I started going off on my like tangent in like half the videos that I have to edit out or I leave part of it in, of like, I prefer thrillers where the main thrilling part of the book doesn't rely on the last 50 pages or like the last 25 pages for the twist. I prefer it when you can get a layered twist and you're delving deeper into like how fucked up it is rather than just like a twist. Because basically, for me, if you don't end up liking that, then you're not going to like the rest of the book, and it ruins everything else you just read and spent your time on this earth doing. So it's like, ugh. And I didn't like that book. If you guys liked that book, explain it to me in the comments. And if you didn't like that book, explain it to me in the comments. Because I just feel like, you know, there's a lot of high expectations going into The Silent Patient. It was like the thriller darling for so long. And I felt like, okay, it gets really overhyped. But I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for a book project that I ended up scrapping. And that book was also like a literary darling of kind of the same era. And to me, that book holds up. Like, I don't think about it all the time, but I think about how I felt when I was reading it. Like, I loved it. So it's kind of weird to me that that one doesn't meet that. Like, it's the sheen has worn off, but people still love that book. Alex McKelladenies and I had a weird relationship. Patricia Wants to Cuddle, which I did call out as a book that I liked. I think honorable mention. It was only 3 stars, but I do think that is a great book for fun, irreverent, and like, it is multimedia, but you're just really getting a lot of people's perspectives interspersed with either letters or like social media commentary, for these girls that are participating on a Bachelor-like show that goes into full hardcore camp. It's really fun. It's like pretty short if you want to read it. Okay. I had 2 other 2-star ratings. One of which was Pizza Girl, which is a book a lot of people recommend. It's like a weird book. I just didn't like it. I mean, I read the whole thing, but I wasn't feeling it. And then I read a very disappointing cozy mystery, The Hot Pot Murder, which I may have talked about in the last book, because according to this, I read it in the first of the month. And then I actually had a few DNFs. So I can't say that I had such a great reading month or quarter, because I do just DNF anything I don't like. So, things I DNF'd. The Wishing Game, which is a book that people are loving. I listened to that book on audiobook for probably about like 20%. I could not get over the uncomfortable relationship I felt like this teacher had with this child. And not uncomfortable in like sexual or anything like that, like no age gap, stuff like that, but I just, as somebody who like as somebody who worked with kids for a really long time, and you learn how to like talk and interact with children that are like going through hard things, listening to this teacher's aide who is an adult and knows full well it's pretty rare and unrealistic that she's going to be able to adopt this child, telling this very troubled kid who is 7 years old and like lives with a foster family and feels but there's this thing where it's like, it's clear that she wants to help this child, adopt this child, and get it out of this foster care situation where like the parents are just really busy. It doesn't seem like any abuse is happening from what like I got to. But it's another thing to sit down with a kid that doesn't really know what's going on and has had a lot of really traumatic things. Being removed from the home is really traumatic. Moving to foster care, like that's all hard. And so for you as an adult, even if you're a young adult, to look at a 7-year-old that you are in charge of, you're a teacher's aide, you're approved to be in a classroom, you have to do certain trainings to do that, and to say, yeah, when we live together, I'm going to adopt you, that made me so uncomfortable, and I couldn't get into it. I just thought, I don't like it. I don't care if it's found family at the end and she does adopt him, she shouldn't have said that, and I'm mad about it. Broken Monsters, and I think it's called Beautiful Monsters. I don't know. One of the books I was going to read for the 2014 video, I didn't like it. I didn't learn the title. I barely talked about it in that video, DNFing it, because I just read like 10 pages of it, and I didn't like the writing style. I couldn't really even place what I wasn't loving about it there. I just got rid of it. Donovan is killing it, which I know is a controversial opinion. I thought I would really like this book, but honestly, Finley is so annoying. Maybe it's because I listened to it on the audiobook, like, that could be it. But I found her so annoying in the beginning. I really felt, and I also felt like her ex-husband was so comically evil bad guy. Like, just such a douche. And I just, as a married person, and just when he's been with people, I just can't imagine that if me and my husband were to get divorced and he was the one who was cheating on me with somebody and my life kind of fell apart about it, that then he would have the gall to be such an asshole and I would keep my mouth shut. I don't keep my mouth shut now. So I just have a hard time. Not that he's cheating, sorry. I don't keep my mouth shut now and we're perfectly happy. So I can't imagine, I think part of it is like, I can't imagine being that person and I don't find those people very fun to read about. And the conceit of the story is that she's just so uncomfortable after somebody asks her for a hit that she does it. That's insane, and you have to justify that, like, campy absurdity, I feel like, early up. And this girl is just such a, like, I'm just such a mess. I'm going to Panera. Like, that's annoying. So sorry, I'm a hater. I know a lot of people talk about on YouTube, they're like, I'm in my hater era, or like, I'm an OG hater. I really am an OG hater. I hate everything. All the time. I'm trying to be nicer about it. I'm trying to be better about it. But honestly, I'm not. It's hard.
And for the audience,
Uh-huh.
if you were to like set yourself as a scale, so like you're even, if like this is hater and this is yapper, like where are we? Like
That's a Venn diagram.
That's a Venn
That's a
diagram.
Venn diagram.
Okay, so there are. Would you say they're equal? Would you say you're more of a hater than a yapper? More of a yapper than a hater?
I guess I would probably say I'm more of a yapper than a hater. But sometimes the hate can fuel the yapping.
What if there's yapping dysmorphia?
You think I'm more of a hater than a yapper?
No.
Really? Wait, what do you think actually?
I think you're more of a yapper than a hater.
There's a lot of stupid shit that people do and say, and I don't need to read about it in books, and I don't need to listen to a woman that is so out of control in her life because she can't write a book and is letting her husband, her ex-husband, who cheated on her, walk all over her, and then also manage to accidentally kill somebody, and this goes on for 4 books. Like, I don't know. I can do fun and campy. I love Death Becomes Her. I love cozy mysteries. I love the books that inspired True Blood, okay? You can be stupid as fuck, but don't be so annoying. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. I also DNF'd Bride. It was really boring. Again, I just said, I like the Sookie Saka series. Those are the books that inspired True Blood. I can do a paranormal romance. I really can. But something about Bride, first of all, the main character's name is Misery, and she has purple eyes, because all vampires have purple eyes. And if that is not 2012, I'm not like other girls energy, I don't know what the fuck is. Another just sad character that has no agency, which is totally fine, because I think probably the point of it is by the end of the book, she has a lot of agency. That happens in the Sookie Saka's book. But there's something about her in it that is just really annoying. And then, again, I found the book really boring. I read about 200 pages of it, and I meant to read it, but I meant to finish it. I really did, because I wanted to read the whole thing to have, like, a good feeling about it. Like, a good understanding of it, not feeling. And I just knew I had, like, 8 days left on the hold, and I had no desire to keep reading it. So many people wanted to read it, and I just gave it up, and no regrets. Bad Summer People was a book. Sometimes I like these kind of books where it's like just rich housewives telling their story. I tend to like those better as audiobooks. I've read a few of those. I think I really enjoyed Pineapple Street, which is like, that's an oversimplification of it, but there's something about Bad Summer People where the people are grading, and I listened to it probably like 3 hours of it, so I don't know, I don't think that's controversial. And then, this is maybe controversial, I tried to read the Magnolia Parks books. Shaughnessy raves about them, and I trust her, and so I got it out from the library, and I think I cut this out of one of my videos where I was like, I'm going to start this book, and I'm so excited. I read 10 pages of it, and it was like reading if Skins and Degrassi or like one book transcribed. And I loved Degrassi, and I watched Skins. I did, but God, looking at the word beej spelled out Beej. Get the stop. Beej, get out of here. I cannot believe how many people with their whole chest get on BookTube and say this book is the best. I love their toxic relationship. You can love a toxic relationship. Again, I liked the Sookie Stackhouse books. I'm people in glass houses. I understand. But good God. I was just like, I can't suss through this. Like, there's a part of me that thinks that if I had read these books as like a young teen, as a 13-year-old, which would be very on brand for me to have done at 13, I would have loved them. But I'm not. I'm 27, and these were rough. So those are DNFs. So if you count all the DNFs, I probably don't have as great of a reading percentage for Highness. But yeah. So that was the DNF portion. I'll be less of a hater for the rest of the video, I guess. I read a lot of different books. I read, here's my Goodreads, going through it. I wrote some of my favorites. The Good Neighbors is probably one that sticks out the most to me, which is it's a climate fiction book. So Cli-Fi, I think, is kind of supposed to be like science fiction, but specifically with like climate change being a big factor in it. Basically, it's written other books, but this book centers around this like neighborhood that's really perfect, kind of like idealistic version of the Burbs. And this family that's slightly poorer moves in, but they're kind of like getting out of Brooklyn, and they're really excited about what this means for their family. And then basically the neighborhood seemingly turns on them, specifically this woman who I feel like her name was Rita, but I don't know if that's true. And she is kind of like the leader of everybody in the neighborhood, and you switch between like her perspective, some article interviews, and then the perspective of like the daughter of the poorer family. And Rita's got some skeletons in her closet for sure. But basically, the book starts off with them going to this barbecue, and things are really tense, and then a sinkhole opens in the town, and stuff comes from there. Tales are told, stories happen, a death happens. These kids go on an adventure, and it's not a fun adventure. Like, the kids end up going to hopefully take the body out of the sinkhole, but things start crashing down around them, and Rita's definitely hiding some skeletons, and things really take a turn from there. But I really found the book so readable. It was a little scary, like, just like creepy, I guess would be the better word. So I highly recommend that if you haven't read it. And then I honestly think that Gone Girl was probably my favorite book overall I read in this quarter. I think about that book constantly. I reference it a lot. It's the kind of thriller that I like. I feel like when I was editing my 2014 video, I had too many clips and too much footage, and I couldn't really talk about it super well. So I gave that book a 4 because I found reading the ebook was really annoying, and I hated the voice of the characters, but I really enjoyed the audiobook. But I feel like if you don't like it in its main format, giving it a 5 is a little hard. I love that book. That book holds up. I really enjoyed it, and I just recommend you read it because it's, like, to me, the perfect kind of thriller. Not that there aren't other great thrillers or better books haven't been written. I just really liked that really meta, harsh take and the twists that were happening. I didn't really have much else to say, but I do like doing these quarterly wrap-ups because it's a nice way to check in every 3 months or so, and we're already a whole month into the next quarter, so I didn't get to count any of the books I read for July. The last 2 books I read this quarter were the books I read for the video I just posted, the sequels book, so I hope you guys check out that video and this video. I have some fun videos coming up, and yeah. I'm joking. It's not nice to be a hater all the time, but sometimes it just feels really good. In your house. Privately, don't post hate comments on people. I'm not even gonna explain myself. Being a hater about random books is fine. Being a hater to actual people, don't do that, okay? It's not funny. Anyways,